I'm George Wang with Peterson Technology Partners, and today we have Sean Katz, Chief Information Officer with Vitality Group USA. You have some sharings around the hidden cost of IT. Being in technology, we often are responsible for budgets and things of that sort, so we do the best that we can, but often there are hidden costs.
When I'd finished my studies and I went out and I got my first job, someone was showing me this system that had been developed and how it had been developed over many years. And I looked at the system and I thought, many years, I could have done this in a couple of months. I don't know what these guys are talking about. I'd say that was quite an uninformed view of the world of application development. And now, since I've had all my experience, I've realized it's not so simple to develop software as people think it is. And I've also realized that people with a little touch of software development experience are probably more dangerous than those who have no software development experience. Because once you've written a little application here and there, you think that it's actually quite simple to develop software. But what you don't realize, especially in an environment where you have an existing application that you are making enhancements and changes to, is that whenever you develop something onto that code, you are actually, in effect, changing that code. And software becomes more complex, and the permutations of how all the pieces, all the dimensions of that application work together, all of those permutations get more complex. And so in order to make sure that you're not affecting something else inadvertently, you have to test that software quite extensively to make sure that you're not releasing some new type of defect into your code. And those things are the hidden costs, the things that you don't think about. It's not writing the actual code. Writing the code is the easy part. It's making sure that you've met the requirements, you've documented it for future maintenance, and that you understand what the impact on the rest of the application is going to be. And those are the things that people don't think about when it comes to the costs of application development. The other thing that's also another hidden cost is when you are building applications for a specific audience, often the demand to get to market, because you're going to market with potentially new software, the last thing in your mind is how you're going to scale the software when your actual population starts expanding. Then what happens is when your business is growing and you start getting scale in your business, then the software will start creaking. And now you have to go back and see, why is the software creaking? Why is it not able to deal with the demand? And that may be as simple as you just need more horsepower in your hardware, or it may be that your actual application needs a lot of retuning. Things will come up that don't show their face during small volumes. But as soon as your volume increases, suddenly these complex challenges start coming up. And people forget about that when you grow your business, you may have to re-architect your software. And suddenly you'll have a massive project which you didn't think of because your system doesn't scale properly.
These are great examples of the hidden costs of IT. Is there anything that your company is doing with regards to predictive analytics or modeling that might be able to allow you to predict the company's scaling factor or anything else that might be able to help you?
I mean, we are doing things. I'm not sure if it would fall into the classification of predictive analytics. We have a bunch of tools that will test the performance of endpoints in our system, as well as our websites and our mobile apps, and it will automatically increase load to those endpoints and to our websites and our mobile apps in a staging environment and analyze what happens at load. When we look for those creaks earlier, before they actually start showing themselves up, so we'll predict when those creaks are going to happen. And it may not happen because it's a staging environment. It may not happen at the same volumes because our staging environment doesn't quite match production, but it will definitely show where the creaks are. And you'll still get the same creaks. If there's a bad SQL statement that you've written somewhere, that same bad SQL statement will still give you a problem in production as well. So it at least gives us those creaky areas in the code that we need to look out for. So we'll increase the volumes and we'll look at what changes do we need to make, because we know at some stage that volume is going to cause those creaks that I spoke about to actually manifest. We don't necessarily use predictive analytics yet.
Sean, I know one of the things that can be hidden is the ongoing operational costs. Can you share with us about that?
often when people take applications live, they sometimes forget about what it means to actually keep the lights on. And besides the actual enhancements and maintenance of the application, when you go live, there's clearly support for defects. If a defect comes out, you need to support that. And there's also troubleshooting, because sometimes people will think they're experiencing an issue with the system, and it may be that they don't know your product properly, and that will get escalated to your production support, who then has to dig in and look at the person on the system to make sure the data is correct. And it turns out they may actually be correct, and that they need a little bit more training. So there's that cost of just general support of the system, which may not be issues with the system in itself. And then, of course, you get just general operations, call centers for people that are using your application that need to call in and talk to you about their experience on the application, good or bad. And just, the operational side around, if you're an organization that sells software or services like we do, you have the marketing costs, the sales costs, technical support to help guide clients through how the application works. And sometimes people underestimate how much all of that time, all the operational side takes up as well. And they get surprised by those costs.
That's very practical. And sometimes it's a chicken and egg, but maybe one practical thing that we can do in our budgets, it's not to pad, but have a line item for that exact category of ongoing costs. And maybe in year one, you don't know exactly what it is. You can make your best estimate, but then maybe in year two or whatnot, you'll be able to refine that line entry, whatever you call it.
Yeah, and then what we did previously is I took a value of our assets that we had, our depreciated software assets, and I took a percentage of that. I think I used 10% as a starting point, and said, this is what I expect to be spending on maintenance, which includes defects and production support, because it is generally a function of the amount of asset you have in production and the amount of depreciated asset, because as your asset is in production for a longer period of time, the support on it decreases. So proportion of your depreciated application asset that you have left is a good indication to try and understand how much maintenance you're going to spend on it.
I think that's very insightful and I think very useful advice. Thank you once again.